and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle Up Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Joining me a little bit early as we have a Saturday race this week, it's Brian Twining to break down the early leans on the betting board, get you guys set. Obviously, we will be back prior to the race, post-qualifying, probably Friday night, and have that up Saturday morning for the day of the race. So make sure you smash that thumbs up, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, do all the things. Then when we post that content on Saturday morning, you'll have it. You can get your lineup set, and hopefully we can have another strong week over on DraftKings. Joining me to do it all, it's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Kyle? Yeah, the Richmond race, we were talking prior to recording here. I mean, it was a kind of an up and down race in terms of excitement. I mean, the last 20 or so laps were really awesome to see how the intervals from the leaders to Hamlin and Harvick were shrinking exponentially every single lap. That was really awesome to see. And yours truly just so happens to place a last-minute wager on Denny Hamlin on the offshore we used. So I was sitting pretty come the end of the race.
See, and that's why the interval experience was a little bit different for you, as I was holding Martin Truex ticket going with about 10 or 15 to go. Oh, he's going to catch Byron and pass him, to holy shit. Yep. Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick are coming and they're going to pass both of them. And I'm just literally ripping up my ticket in front of me because it's not going to end well. Truex just didn't have it.
It was incredible though, to see how the tire wear affected the speed of these guys.
Yeah. Especially going around the turns, they got a little bit loose. They had to pull off the gas just a little bit, and it did enough. And as they were going around, it was just it's like when a cement truck or a big old truck is just slowly, or like a Zamboni on the ice.
Yep.
You could see it coming at you. You're like, no,
yep.
There's nothing you can do to stop it because it's just going to crush you. As you can see, terrible week. I thought Martin Truex was going to carry me through. He did not. I didn't place enough outright or enough placements and stuff to kind of rationalize that. Blaney looked dominant until he didn't. I'm not really sure what's going on. That first two stages, he looked like the best driver by a mile. And then by the end, he's kind of just Kevin Harvick from last year, just top 5, top 3. He couldn't even top 5 for me this week. That was.
I feel like so you said it prior to jumping on here. It was almost as if once guys fell back in amongst the cars, passing was almost impossible.
Yeah.
At certain points of the track. And I think that's what happened to Blaney, is that after he lost the lead and he was driving through dirty air or, amongst kind of the rest of the cars, he was having difficulties holding onto it into the corners. So, which made passing a lot more difficult. And then, he didn't have the end of run speed that he had early on in the race.
Yeah. And even Clint Boyer was mentioning on the broadcast, these cars are faster and you can see their top speed and you can see their laps. But then when they get to certain spots, they just can't get around the car in front of them. Yeah. Either there's not a gap or there's not a car. Once they got into lap traffic, then it made it a little bit easier. But so it was definitely a frustrating race for me. As I was feeling great about the first 2.5 stages, I was like, okay, Truex is going to win this. Blaney's going to get a top 3 or top 5. I was feeling good. Chase Briscoe looked good for a little bit and then kind of fell off and had some car issues. It was really interesting to see a lot of the different strategies a lot of teams were taking. Also, Kyle Busch had a sticker on his front plate that
was, they
didn't notice it until the right at the end. And they're like, oh, actually, you need to take that off. So he'd come in, take it off. And by the time he went out, it was just too late. So interesting. Chris Buescher looked good until the very end.
Well, I really feel like that 2 tires stop. What exactly was the purpose of that? How's that going to help you
to get back on there? And they want him to lean on that left side, so they were trying to, I think, maximize that. But yeah, we were talking a little bit after the race. I feel while the results aren't obviously where we want them, the the plays that we're doing, the mentality that we're going through, the way we're coming to these bets, I feel like we're on the right track and things are going to start hitting green for us. And that's the cool thing about, especially when it comes to outright betting, is you hit a couple outrights and all of a sudden that that ROI just soars. So a little
Well,
frustrating, obviously.
yeah, and then I was just gonna hit real quick, like exactly to that point. A guy like Christopher Busher, yeah, he maybe didn't hit that top 10, but grabbing that number at 550,
Yeah.
550 for somebody who we saw that number drop to the 3-1 or even under 3-1, like right before the race started, that was a good indication that that was the right move for that guy. He ran right there pretty much the entire race, and all it would have taken was maybe taking 4 tires instead of 2 in that last stop, or maybe waiting an extra lap and doing that to crack that top 10. So we're the process is right. It's just we're
The
not
results
always
haven't
hitting
gotten there
it.
yet. And when like Circa's dropping like Truex to 6-1, I feel like I'm on the right track. I feel like I'm
And
targeting the right people.
and I was really worried that I made a major mistake by not tailing that as we got at the latter half of the second stage and leading into that last stage where Truex was dominant. I
I
mean,
think he had the best car. I just think the
yeah.
tires were the issue. And at the end is he didn't have quite enough. He needed probably another like 5 less laps and he would be in a great spot, but
Yeah.
unfortunately did not. Um, Similar outlook for you, although you did hit Austin Dillon top
I don't
10.
know how that hit, by the way, because he was running
Um,
13th or 14th with like 3 laps to go, and
and
I
you went
didn't even
back and hit
see
it
him crack
again
it.
because that's the smart move. When you get better numbers on a bet you like, you hit it again. You won the battle of the Austins, even though I got the better juice. You got the win. That's all that matters. And then Byron over Logano. That was fade Joey, fade Keselowski. You'll be looking great.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall not great on the betting market, but that's okay. We have plenty of races to catch up, plenty of races to get to. We've hit 3 winners. You hit a 4th one that, well, while it didn't make the show, you've hit three in a row. So that's pretty good. So we're trending in the right direction despite our overall not looking the greatest. So I'm down about $80. You're down 122. So
And this is with a unit being $10 for our
right
betting
for just
purposes.
for the show purposes, and then obviously we have our Cindric over half a unit season bet. We'll see. We have a few more to get to, so we'll see how those go. And feeling really good about some of our like outright season winners and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
So
I
that
mean,
was fun.
I'm slightly worried about the Penske wins total for the year because, like you said, like Ryan Blaney looked great in the beginning, and then for some reason towards the back half of the races, he's not quite there. And
Yeah.
getting them over 4.5 wins, yeah, we have the one with Cindric, but is Logano going to contribute at all this year? Or
I feel like he should, but I don't know. And then
yeah,
freaking Christopher Bell is like doing just enough. Like how Blaney didn't beat Christopher Bell, I don't know. Like that was so frustrating.
yeah. Well, I mean, traditionally the Toyotas and Joe Gibbs in particular does really well at
Yeah.
Richmond, and 3 guys ran inside the top 7, and then I think it was all 4 finished inside the top 10,
Yeah,
I believe.
and we were
So
on the Toyotas a little bit last week, so I mean, it feels good to be on that right side. It was time for them to come to fruition and whatnot. The one thing I will say is over on DraftKings, it was a pretty solid week for the boys. More than doubled my money.
nice.
Truex, Blaney, Chastain, Bowman, Dillon, Haley. Haley, like we were talking about a little bit before, like he got stuck and then just couldn't quite get there,
Yeah,
but he didn't look that bad. And I feel good about where his like ownership percentage was. Good point of difference, 306.65 there. And then my best lap was my best lineup was 355.35. Truex, Blaney, Bell, Bowman, Dillon, Haley. So what was instead of using Chastain, I used Christopher Bell. So this must have been our lineup for the show. 'Cause I feel like you would have been Christopher Bell, right?
yeah, probably.
So a lot of the same names, just
For whom the bells tolls.
Yep. So solid race across the board for a lot of these guys. Bell looked good. Blaney looked good. Truex, obviously, if Truex gets the win, I'm looking even better. But solid little more than like a 1.25, something like that return. So keep that momentum going and see how it goes.
I was gonna say real quick, it's interesting to see how Alex Bowman, he wound up finishing 8th, and I feel like although he was kind of the one that stood out the most as he's probably going to be in the most lineups, it was almost as if you had to have him in your lineup knowing what he was going to do, because you would have been behind the 8 ball. I mean, figuratively speaking, with him finishing 8th, if you hadn't been in your lineup.
100%. And a lot of these guys, like, there's a lot of corollary. It's really in being different is about finding that one or two guys. So Blaney and Truex and Bowman were all highly owned, but the less than 20% Christopher Bell ended up being a good thing and ended up giving us a much better lineup than the 23%, 24% Ross Chastain. Obviously if Haley pops and has like a nice race, then things are looking even better. So that's something to think about too. So it's really about finding just one or two spots where you can be a little bit different, and kind of diversify and move up and all that good stuff. Let's flip forward. Let's talk the Martinsville race this week. We are going to Martinsville. We are going to Martin Truex, capital of racing. I'm wearing his shirt today. Your big favorite, +5, +550, depending on where you look. Probably rightfully so. 3 wins.
He's been incredible here. The average finish of just about 6th over the last 10 races. 3 wins in the last 5 races. He's led over 100 laps 3 different times here in the last 3 years. I mean, he's been really good here.
And we were talking about this track too. It's kind of its own animal. It's obviously a short track, but unlike last week, this track's completely flat. Braking is really key. It'll be interesting to see with the new brakes how they handle this. Because some people were having issues last week. Obviously, the brakes are bigger. They're getting hotter, the big wheels. So we'll see how that goes. Road course drivers that tend to do well on road courses have the potential to do much better this week because of the flat, because of the braking, because of those kind of things. So something to keep in the back of your mind as we kind of run through the board. So Truex is your favorite. Elliott behind him 7.5 to 1. Denny Hamlin, last week's winner, anywhere from 7.5 to 10. If you can get 10 at FanDuel, I think that's a decent number. Ryan Blaney, once again, shooting up the draft board. Incredibly interesting. Logano, 10 to 1. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, 10 to 1.
It's interesting to see Larson. I mean, we talked about it entering the year. The car has definitely made a huge difference for this season. I mean, 7 different winners. Larson has he won that race, but he's really only been in contention twice for a victory this season. I mean,
and then it sounds like Willie B is running in the truck series this week. So that will be interesting for him to get a little extra work on the track to see if that helps him.
I'm excited to see that.
10 to 12 to 1. So of that kind of initial group, where's your head at? What are you thinking? Where's your early bets potentially going?
Well, I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'll definitely be, probably a half a unit, maybe a full unit on Ryan Blaney, just thinking that he'll put together the back half of the race the way he's been starting off races and finally find victory lane eventually. But, in that group, it's hard to get to Truex at, +550. That's such a short number.
Yep.
I would almost be willing to go back to Hamlin at 9 to 1. All the Toyotas seem to have found something on the shorter tracks this year, as evidenced last week in Richmond, and getting almost double the odds for guy racing on the same team and somebody that's been probably more successful than Truex over the last year plus, just overall, is probably the play over taking the favorite at this race.
Yeah. And Marty's been awesome. And obviously, like a top 3 or top 5 bet isn't going to be quite as sexy, and it's probably going to be a shorter number just because of where his outright is. But I think that's probably how I would attack it. Kyle Larson is going on the card. I already added him. I get double digits on a guy that I trust as much as I trust him, and he hasn't won, and he really hasn't been like as dominant as kind of we expected. But a guy that doesn't have the greatest track record here, but does pretty well in these new cars, does well on road courses. I just double digits on a guy that I trust as much as him. I can't help myself. So he is the first name penciled in.
Yeah, again, we talked about at the beginning of the year, like a guy like Larson is somebody who's he's just such a good driver.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost bet him every single week and know that he's going to be in contention, maybe not win the race, but he has a shot to win every race that he's running.
We'll trickle down and look at the kind of the next group. Bowman at 14, Bell at 14, Harvick at 20, 22. It was really good to see Harvick really perform well last week. He looked like a guy who wants to win races instead of a guy who is kind of in that top 5 consideration.
Ready to retire.
Weeks. Yeah. Tyler Reddick, once again, wild range of outcomes for him. You can get him as low as 16 and as high as 28. So if you like Reddick, that is a number to shop. Anything in that range jumping out to you as bets you're considering making?
Yeah, I'm adding them to the card right now, each for a half a unit, and that's both Bowman and Bell at that 16-1 number. I'd be jumping on that right now. Bowman won here last year during the fall in the playoffs. The race in the spring didn't go so well. He crashed out, but the previous 2 to that were both 6th place finishes, and he's been running well this season. He's already got a win, and 16-1 for a guy who's been racing as good as him is a great number. And then Christopher Bell, somebody now 2 weeks in a row now has finally found his form. Like, is he ready to take that next step and win the race? So 16-1 is a good number and potentially something that could get shorter if he qualifies good again.
Yeah, he definitely could, but
that's the thing for me, is just jumping on the number before it shrinks. I think that's
and it was nice to see him finish
like my attack.
Relatively strong. While didn't really have a chance to win, did look good, and had a real shot to to make some noise.
Harvick is very intriguing at that number, but again,
really
I just don't know if he has the speed over the entire duration of the race.
Says the guy betting Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell. I mean, that's the epitome of first 2 stages looking incredible and then just completely collapsing.
Well, the thing about Harvick, though, too, is like, yeah, he's been really good here throughout his career, but when you look at his recent success, it's kind of exactly, and it epitomizes his recent racing. I mean, he's racing good. Last year, 9th and 12th. In 2020, it was 15th and 17th. And even prior to that, 7, 6, 10, 5, 5. Like, he's never really ran inside the top 3 or contended for a victory at this track. So him getting placement bets is probably way better than even entertaining that 20-1 number.
Speaking of numbers to entertain above 20-1, Ross Chastain is 25-1 at PointsBet, and that is going on the card. He is a different driver. He is a stud.
Ross the boss.
Even though he didn't perform as well as at Richmond as I kind of had hoped.
Well, that was
25 is much better than the 12 or 15 they hung last week.
And I was gonna say, I'm fairly confident in saying the reason why he didn't finish as well as he did is much to do of his own doing, in which he moved Blaney out of the way, and then Blaney paid him back, which definitely affected their long run speed. Because once you got out of that just kind of groove of racing, like we said, and you got stuck in the pack, it was almost impossible to pass cars, and he kind of ruined his day by doing that.
I'm going to take Harvick at 22 as well. I just think that's too good of a number. It may not end up working out. I'm not going to put a full unit on it, but
when we transition to placements, there is a Harvick number I'm on this week.
And I think once like we talk on Friday night, I think that number is not going to be 22. So I'm going to take it now. and hope that that's there's a reason why it's there. Beyond there, this definitely feels more like last year, where there's really a handful of guys that we want to target,
Yeah.
and then the longer shots not so much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like especially at a track like this, you're not gonna get the kind of variance of winners like we've been seeing. This is gonna be there's a group of guys who legitimately have a shot to win this race.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be coming from the
It's
Eric
not
Jones
Eric
or Daniel
Jones, and it's not
Suarez.
Daniel Suarez, and it's
No.
not Christopher
Although
Buescher.
that Chris Buescher at 150 to 1,
What
still a
about
good
Bubba
number,
at
but
200? Bubba at 200? No.
Even the dinger, like I was kind of disappointed to see how
Dinger at 200 though. We talked about the road course corollary, like
Yeah, but he looked like garbage in Richmond on
but I don't
Sunday.
think he's supposed to be driving a track like Richmond. I think that's why he's a part-time guy.
Yeah,
I'm not going to take the outright, but I think once we flip over and look at placings, like a top 10 on the dinger, I could do that if the number is right. Let's take a look at what we got over there. So we'll head over to DraftKings, look at some placings. FanDuel, you were saying, doesn't have much placings. They just have outrights.
All they have is outrights up at the moment. Yeah.
So
because we are a day early. So
if we, we're trying to get this out a little bit earlier. If we find stuff between now and Friday, we'll be sure to tweet it out. So make sure you're following us on Twitter at NotoriousKRO, at Greasy Rules 14. I'll try and put it up on the Instagram too at AOP Podcast. Make sure you're following us over there. And like I said, we'll be back Friday night to update our betting cards, give you guys some more updated information, and obviously get your DFS thoughts out of the way as well. So of the initial guys, any outrights or any like top 3, top 5 bets you're looking at in this kind of range?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, in that range right there, like for me, the Christopher Bell plus 175 top 5 is definitely enticing, just because I have the feeling that it's probably going to get a little bit shorter, maybe even close to even money in all likelihood of him qualifying inside the top 10 once again. And then like William Byron, he's running pretty damn well of late. And somebody
he's
that
in the truck race, and by the time he performs well there, even though it's different car, I could see that number shrinking.
Yeah.
And
then Kevin Harvick, that's the number
that's going on the card. Done.
Plus 250. That's on my card already. Full unit. Harvick is too good of a driver, and he knows how to avoid confrontation other than against Chase Elliott. But he knows how to, manage these kinds of races where there's probably going to be a lot of paint swapping. And so getting him at such a big number for a top 5 is pretty good.
Yeah. Keselowski? I know he's your rival.
No, I have no interest.
Let's look at top 10 market. Assuming they have it.
Yeah, I don't think they have the top 10 market yet because they know that they'd probably be getting had right now.
Sweet. Shouts, DraftKings. Shouts. So we'll try and tweet some stuff out. We like the guys we like. Dinger, top 10. Christopher Buescher, top 10.
Chris Buescher, top 10 for me, I feel like is going to open again around like that 4 to 1, maybe 4.5 to 1. And as soon as that does, I'm going to jump all over that.
Yeah, I think 4 or 5 to 1 on the Dinger. I could be talked into that for sure. Harvick versus Reddick. I think I like Harvick minus the 115. I think that's a nice number.
There's a matchup a little bit further down that I've already added just out of spite.
Truex versus Blaney. Oh, let me see if I can guess it. Let me see if I can guess it. Where? Oh, right here.
Nope.
Nope. It's not that one. It's not that one. There it is.
There it is.
Chase Briscoe plus money versus Brad Keselowski.
Oh, hell yeah. Anytime I get even money on somebody over Brad Keselowski, I know RFK looked better last week, but I'm not trusting the number 6 RFK car from what I've seen this season.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And you're getting plus money, so I don't hate that at all. I don't see any show bets that I want to jump in on. If there's anything that jumps out to you, let me know. Truex, just taking him versus Elliott versus Blaney is probably a good move. Haven't made the
We
card yet.
we could go head to head. I'll take Blaney. You could have Party
Done.
Marty.
Done. I will have a Marty party up and down Martinsville. I will gladly add that to the card. This is kind of interesting. I don't know that I feel great about either one, so I'm probably not
I
going
was
to
just
go.
gonna say, yeah, neither did really well last week.
So, anything in the featured matchups that are interesting? Larson versus Bush. I will take Kyle Larson minus 115 versus Kyle Busch.
Okay, I'm gonna add that right now. William Byron plus 130 over Martin Truex Jr. I know Truex kicks ass at Martinsville, but Byron has really elevated his driving last year as he was kind of the driver I tailed the most. And at the beginning of this season, he's been one of the better cars on track, probably one of the top 5, top 3 cars all season. So getting him at plus 130 is something I'm adding that for sure.
Yep. And I will take Ross Chastain plus 120 over Ryan Blaney.
Man, really?
Yeah. I love Ryan Blaney. I have an outright on him to win the whole damn cup. But if I can get plus 120 on a driver I truly believe in, I'm going to do it. So plus 120, give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm very sad that we don't have the top 10 numbers yet because I'd be really interested to see what even a Harvick is, because if he's plus 250 on the top 5 market, you're
It's probably like
looking at
minus 105, minus 115, something like that.
And if that's the case, like I'm gonna hammer that.
Yeah, I think I would take that too. Yeah, I mean we're trying to be. I figured with the race being earlier that they might take better care of us, but that is clearly not the case. So that's fine. We this is just a first look, initial thoughts, initial feels. Get some stuff going on the betting card, that kind of stuff. Here, let's do this. So right now on my card, we can look at what I have. I have Kyle Larson 10-1. I have Ross Chastain 25-1. I have Kevin Harvick 22-1. Do half units on the 20s and then full unit on the 10. Kevin Harvick to top 5 at plus 250. That's full unit. Larson over Kyle Busch, minus 115. 2 units on that. And then Chastain over Blaney at plus money. I'll do a full unit on that. So that is where my head is at as of now. We'll flip down and look at what Brian has so far. Bowman at 16, Bell at 16, Bell top 5 plus 175. I like that. That might be interesting. Harvick top 5 plus 250, Byron over Truex, Briscoe over Keselowski, and Blaney over Truex. That's obviously our show bet. I will add that. Brian Twining, one thing left to do. What is your best bet for the Blue-Emu 400 at Martinsville?
After a short deliberation inside my head, I'm going to go with the last one that I actually added, and that's Bell to top 5 at plus 175 as we sit here on Tuesday evening recording. I just think that he's on the right track and continuing to kind of improve in terms of finishing position. And last week is a step in the right direction after finishing 4th at Coda, or 3rd, I believe it was. I really think this is the week. Maybe we see him run inside the top 3 pretty consistently all day and even potentially win, which is why I have him on an outright. So as of right now, my best bet for the Blue-Emu 400 is Christopher Bell top 5 at plus 175.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to go with one that actually has, I'm just going to add right now. Martin Truex top 3 plus 150. I like the outright. I think he makes sense, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of wiggle room and add that top 3.
That's a pretty good number too,
Plus
considering you're
money.
getting 2 extra placements.
Yeah, and considering his outright is 5.5 to 1, it's plus 175 for Chase Elliott, who's 7. Still Ryan Blaney's plus 190, and he's 9 to 1. Like, this is basically double the odds. This should be like 2.5, 3 to 1, and you're not even getting 2 to 1. So
Yeah.
I like that. This isn't actually that bad either. Blaney top 5 minus 110, but I did the top 5 thing last week with him and it did not go well, so I will not run that back. So yep, it's our initial card as of Tuesday at 5:00.
And I will say Chris Buescher top 10 will be on my card whenever I find
Buescher will go on Brian's card when that pops up. I'm very tempted by the dinger. I think, like Brian said, Harvick top 10 could be very interesting. We'll see what else comes into our mind as the week rolls along. We'll be back on Friday post qualifying. Friday qualifying, I think it's like 2:30 Eastern or something, or maybe Pacific. I don't know. I was looking at the app earlier.
Whatever it is, we live on the West Coast. So.
But we'll be back on Friday evening. It'll be live on our YouTube Saturday morning, bright and early. Get you guys set. If you have questions in the meantime, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, send our questions. We're always happy to ask. You can also ask questions down in the comment. Brian and I try and come back a couple times throughout the week to answer questions or just chat about NASCAR. We're happy to talk about it. So make sure you leave your questions down there. Smash the thumbs up on the way out if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys.